Bum, 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 ba-now. Now, bum, bum. Hmm. All right, folks, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, the People's Pundit, only one of me. If you like the videos, don't forget to like them and share them far and wide. Of course, the best place to follow us, as always, is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, before we get into it, we are going to be a little bit redundant. Sorry, Locals, but I won't take too much time being redundant, and then we'll get right into the bad takes continue. All right, which is like basically a preview to some columns that I'm writing, two of them. One of them obviously is going to come first, and the other they won't appear both at the same time. But they are laying out a little bit of a groundwork, and they'll be on a website we all know, we all love. All right. Moving on. All right, before we do it, let's just get one done, since this is a 1 hour kind of special of Inside the Numbers, considering that it's typically a what are the odds day. All right, it's almost Turkey Day. A lot of people are going to be toning down their schedules. It's just the way it is. Barnes is chilling, chillaxing. We'll do, of course, a what are the odds for after this, obviously, and then the Christmas poll. I'm sure we're going to do all that together. So today we're doing a bit of a 1 hour special. Okay, let's just get one and done out of the way. Look, the wellness company wants to make America healthy again, starting with you. From innovative supplements to keeping you in optimal health to an array of emergency kits providing peace of mind for the unexpected, the wellness company has everything you need to give thanks to yourself this fall season. Their biggest sale of the year, Black Friday deals, start Thanksgiving Day. Save up to 25% on supplements, emergency kits, and membership. All of the well care you need delivered to your door. Here is the best time of year to stock up. Grab your faves and enjoy the extra savings. Go to twc.health/TPP, links in the description, and enjoy your amazing Black Friday savings today. This sale ends Sunday, which is a Sunday night, December 1st. So take advantage of the short window you have to stock up. Try something new you've been eyeing or grabbing gift cards for family members and friends. Head to twc.health/TPP. That discount will apply at checkout. That's twc.health/TPP. Remember, you can't put a price on your health. All right. I normally save something Thanksgiving, if that's even a word, for the last show before Thanksgiving, but I kind of fear we won't have time to get through it. So today I'm actually going to do it. We lost him this year, which is sad. But Thomas Purcell, he was the host of Liberty Never Sleeps, an author and a friend, had been in this game for a long time. Passed away from cancer this year, and he always had something remarkable to say about Thanksgiving, Columbus Day, right? And it kind of inspired me one year, which was really cool. And I decided I'm going to write something that's like right in the spirit of Tom. And I want to get to it. Probably, guys, never heard of this book. Even if you're college educated, credentialed, even if you studied, got a liberal arts degree, you probably, many of you as listeners would, but anyone who's in audience attendance right now, just an average, listener who might click on real quick, I bet you didn't. You may have, and if you did read it in college, maybe you spent 3 days or not even a day on this book, which is over 300 pages and a seminal work, especially with the American identity. And you may have spent 5 days, maybe even a full calendar week on the Communist Manifesto, right? So I don't want to miss out on doing it. There are a couple really good ones I'd like to read and go over with you guys, but we'll do that in a bit. All right. Right now, we have to be real structured with our segments. So we have 3 minutes almost of listening to this irritable little boy, but we have to do it because they are not really getting this. They're not understanding. I told you, starting this conversation Laura and I had, that this is not 2016. This was we've been talking about this forever. Trump is more popular now. The hatred, he's more popular than he's ever been. The hatred of Donald Trump is like a niche thing now, relegated to the fanatical, credentialed, professional class, even uber elite wing of society, and nobody really cares about it. They just don't. And Democrats are struggling to regenerate this hatred while at the same time walking kind of a tightrope and saying, MSNBC is failing. It's failing. People are done. The View is on its way to fail. So what are we going to do to appeal? We have to lie to Americans and pretend to be more moderate again. We have to do that, make make MSNBC sane again. It's I don't even know what to do here, but they don't either. I mean, the real answer is to just stop being fanatics. Unfortunately, they're not going to be able to do that. I'm telling you right now, they're not going to be able to do that. Somebody wants it louder. Okay. So I hear you. I'm looking at the thing right now. If this tends to get too loud, please yell at me because I'm looking at it right now and it is on a max little thing here. All right. So let's play a clip from our buddy Harry. And he is puzzled over this. Holy Toledo. Holy moly, Batman. Right? Let's go.
Look here. President Trump's transition net approval. You go back to November of 2016. Look at this. It was just at plus 1 point. Just at plus 1 point. That is well below the historical norm. Look at where we are today. Significantly higher. Plus 18 points. That's 17 points higher on the presidential transition net approval rating. The bottom line is this. If 8 years ago Americans were lukewarm on Donald Trump, at this particular point, they're giving him much more the benefit of the doubt. A lot more Americans are in love with this transition. This much more meets the historical norms where normally presidents get that boost coming.
In love with this transition. In love with this transition. And there are all of these doomers out there, which is just unbelievable. Why is it in red and not in green? That's a good question, Jonathan. That's a good question. Positive in the polling industry and in the election mafia industry is blue. Positive is either blue or it's, in this case, why isn't it black? Right? So they're both positive. You should shade them as in a lighter blue and a deeper blue. That is how we indicate that there are levels of intensity. Negative is red, as Jonathan points out. Why are the numbers in red? Because CNN cannot help being propagandists. They just can't help themselves. All right. So this is off of a CBS News YouGov study. You guys may remember that poll was not good. So again, if you had Trump barely winning the Sun Belt states, even losing one of them, and then you had Trump losing every single battleground state in the Rust Belt, who the hell are you to tell us whether or not people approve or disapprove of this transition? So this is why I want to poll it. I want to poll it. Support the Public Polling Project as always. We don't have a new one up there, a new campaign up there. Maybe I'll do transition poll or something like that. That's actually not a bad idea, doing transition poll, because the other one's just not fully funded. It's done. It's done in the books. The national poll's in the books. It's out. Maybe we'll do that. So, but in any event, if they couldn't gauge, as I tell you guys all the time, if they cannot gauge the vote, then how could we ever trust them with how they gauge anything else? But Nevertheless, it still shows, apples to apples, that the bottom line is this is a popular transition. This is a popular soon-to-be presidency. Donald Trump is more popular than he's ever been. And I told you guys that this is not 2016 anymore. And that is as positive as he could get it because of the levels of Trump hate that were being fomented by the media. Despite how much they tried this time, it still did not work. And that's a big part about answering this question right here from Sexy Princess. And oh no, sorry, not Sexy Princess. Sorry, Sexy. Somebody at yeah, there you go. Here's a lot of these. This is just one. There's, can you tell how to show it was a blowout to claim those? It was there. That's actually part of what I'm writing. Here's another one. And that's actually part of the column that I'm writing. I'll touch on it, but that's a lot more in detail, and 2-hour show would have been a better time to do it, but I'll be done soon. So the fact of the matter is you could technically claim by historical norms that it's a narrow win. However, that is intellectually lazy and intellectually dishonest. Bottom line, I'll give you one nugget right now, which is one of a 3-part argument I'm making. And that is, think about it like this, guys. Donald Trump won the popular vote by about 1.7. Maybe it'll fall to 1.6. Okay. Yet he won some of these battleground states in absolute blowouts. Even by Nevada standards, that is a big win. It is. It's an actually above average win in the state of Nevada in the modern era. In North Carolina, an above average win. In Florida, a way above average win. In Ohio, even in the Trump era, an way above average win. In Iowa, even in the Trump era, a way above average win. Okay. It is equatable to Obama's margins in some of these states in 2008 and exceeds those margins in 2008 in many of these states. Okay. In all but one battleground state, even though Trump only won the popular vote by 1.7, that's exactly our poll, by the way. Maybe it'll fall to 1.6, which is the other scenario in our poll anyway, so it doesn't really matter. In all but one of the battleground states or even competitive states, Trump either won them or ran stronger than Biden did against him in 2020. The exception, of course, is Michigan. All right, so Trump won Arizona that is a blowout, in a bigger margin than he won in 2016, and far bigger margin than Biden won, even though Biden won the popular vote by 4.3%. All right, so Biden won the popular vote by 4.3%, yet Trump is basically doubled his margin in the state of Pennsylvania. He won the popular vote by 4.3%, yet Trump is, again, basically doubled his margin in the state of Wisconsin. So while they may look like narrow wins, he ran strong. By the way, in Georgia, it's 4 times the margin, almost more than 4 times the margin than Biden's win in the state of Georgia. And we could just keep going all around the map. Trump basically doubled his margin in and I'm being very general here. It's more than that, but doubled his margin in North Carolina, right? And then it was the non-battleground states, which is part of this argument that they're being lazy and dishonest about, which is the effect of a little something called campaigning. All right, we campaign in battleground states, and the reason they're tighter and the non-battleground states moved in a much bigger fashion is because of the lack of the influence of money, which, by the way, never have we seen disparities in money the way that we are seeing today in modern politics. Biden, even he had a huge advantage over Trump, but Harris had a massive advantage, and the media, I would argue, was even more in the tank against Trump and in the tank for the Democratic nominee. Yet we saw New Jersey move massive, New York move massive, because these were not states that people were spending money in. It was an organic movement. Okay. Again, so to compare, here's the third part of the leg. Electorates change. Ronald Reagan would not have won in the landslide that he won in 1980 or 1984 if he had to run in this electorate. Donald Trump put together the most diverse, demographically diverse, and demographically deep, right? It's a deep coalition. That he's got the most diverse coalition than any Republican candidate ever. I hate to break it to everybody, but George Bush did not get 45% of the Hispanic vote or 44% of the Hispanic vote. Those were the exit poll estimates. And when you look at the actual votes, it looks like Donald Trump did better than what the exit polls suggest. that he did among Hispanic voters. Sadly, again, because the system is totally corrupt. Every powerful institution in not only America, but in the world is against Donald Trump in a way that no other candidate has ever had to deal with. So let me just put it like this, and this word is actually in the title of my article. It is a miracle that Donald Trump won the popular vote. A miracle. And it's not even, forget about the Electoral College. That's easier to do, as I told you, while idiots like Harry Enton were trying to entertain this idea that Trump can win the popular vote but lose the Electoral College. It's asinine. His core coalition is overrepresented in the Electoral College. And the reason why that is, which is part of the third part argument, is that they have changed the nature of this electorate. Again, electorates do not stay the same. You cannot compare 2024 to 04 or 2024 to 1984 or 2024 to 1994. And by the way, Bill Clinton was elected with the mid-40s in the friggin' vote in 92, and Democrats claimed Time Magazine, the cover of Time Magazine, that it was a mandate. Give me a break. And the presence of third parties is why, of course, we still took it to be true that Bill Clinton got a mandate, because look at his Electoral College win. Look at the groups he was supported with. Of course we did, because there was 19% of the vote being pulled away from George Bush, and some by him from Ross Perot. The presence of third-party voters is being assumed to have hurt Harris in this race. That isn't true, and that was not the case in our final poll, as you guys could see. Trump would have won by a larger margin without the presence of third parties. Why? Number one, our polling says it. And when you're right about the election, you might as well just be, you have to, not all polls are created equal. Bottom line. Not all polls and not all pollsters are created equal. We clearly showed at the end Trump was more popular than Harris, which gave him a higher ceiling. And without the presence of third-party voters, he would have been above 50% and probably not comfortably, but above 50%. He would have beat her by a larger margin. She had a higher floor than Joe Biden, but a lower ceiling than Joe Biden. They're coping because they threw out a duly elected or duly nominated presidential nominee for a woman that has never gotten a single vote in her freaking life. And they're trying to spin this in all sorts of ways. 3 metro areas decided they could not change the minds of the voters every time elections came around, and they didn't trust white people not to swing. So they decided instead of changing minds, they would change the electorate. What you saw in 2024 was the tip of the biggest political irony in American political history. They imported their own demise. But it is the beginning of that realignment. And Republicans are stupid, so it might be the end. We'll see. TBD. TBD. But there's a few points. I'm going into a lot greater detail. And then the other column is about how this is Trump's win, which is piggybacks off what I just said. This is Trump's win. This is Trump's coalition. Dave McCormick would not be the senator-elect from the state of Pennsylvania. Okay? He just wouldn't. He would have lost that race. Rick Scott is basically the only person on the ballot with Donald Trump who won his coalition on his own. They're clearly overlapping coalitions. Rick Scott is clearly viewed as more MAGA, and his voters in his state trust him more. This is Trump's win, not theirs. Speaking of which, what I showed on the screen before we had, we're not there yet, but we'll get there, and I'll go over some of this in a little bit more detail. I just don't have a whole lot of time today, so bear with me. But the fact of the matter is, this should not be easy. This should not be hard to figure out. The one and last called race in the House of Representatives right now is John Duarte and Adam Gray. Duarte is the incumbent Republican. It's California 13. Adam Gray is the Democratic challenger. And Duarte is running more than 5 points behind Donald Trump in the district at large as a whole. He lost his own home county while Donald Trump romped it.
And the battleground county in that district is Merced, where Trump is currently winning and John is currently losing. This is why? Because they did not get this coalition that we are talking about. All right, let's finish this clip.
Out of their victory. And what we're seeing here is Donald Trump's presidential transition is getting a thumbs up, and dare I say, 2 thumbs up from the American people.
And, you know, we're still on the appointment phase at this point, but it does give insight to sort of where this team is thinking to lead some of these key departments, of course. I mean, but how do people feel about the prospects of his presidency, given the context of some of these picks?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, because he's trying to do it now, too. It's remarkable, it's a miracle that Trump won the popular vote, let alone the election, given this corrupt, rigged, handicap environment. It's a miracle that even in the CBS News YouGov poll, which is garbage, it's a miracle that he's even plus 18, considering how they're reporting on these picks. They're all a bunch of rapists. Did you watch 60 Minutes' introduction to Trump's picks? That smug, arrogant, elitist piece of garbage. Did you listen to how he characterized these people? The American public's over it. They're over it. Plus 18 with the once most credible program on network news, defining Pete Hegseth as a TV host who has a sexual assault charge against him. Unbelievable. By the way, the current president of the United States is also an alleged rapist. You don't hear about that every day from the media, do you? This is the United States of America. An allegation is an allegation. When it's been investigated, it wasn't adjudicated, you are not guilty.
It's not just that they like what Donald Trump is doing right now. They're optimistic for the future. So, again, let's compare ourselves now versus where we were 8 years ago. And what you see 8 years ago, 53% of Americans were scared or concerned, the majority towards the upcoming Trump term. Look at where we are now. The shoe is on the other foot. 53% of Americans are excited or optimistic. It's flip-flop, where a narrow majority 8 years ago were scared or concerned about the upcoming Trump term. Now what we see is that the majority is excited or optimistic about the Trump term. So what we're just seeing is very different numbers from where we were 8 years ago. 8 years ago, folks really were not that in love with the Trump transition. Now they are, and more than that, looking forward to the upcoming Trump term.
Now they don't believe him.
8 years ago, the majority were scared or concerned. Now the majority are excited or optimistic.
And look, I mean, the reality is for these cabinet picks, they've got to get confirmed by the Senate here. And so I think rightfully so, a lot of concern has gone into, okay, where will Republicans fall in supporting these picks, since they're
a lot of concern. Who's concerned? Who the hell are you talking about, schmuck boy? Who's concerned? Your concern. Your concern. The American public is excited. Who are you representing? Again, it's a miracle. With all of this crap and this propaganda, this man can get the numbers he got. There's a lot of concern. Where? In the offices of CNN? You think Americans suddenly forgot about everything you alleged and told them during the election? They weighed your argument and they rejected it. If there's any concern, it's that he's not taking a bigger wrecking ball and destroying it all. This is a testament to how little power they have been reduced to. Now, don't get me wrong. They still have power. But God, guys, from 2016 to now, look at how far they have fallen. Nobody cares. Everyone's used to Harris's Twitter handle going, "This is huge." Trump's pick for the Department of Defense is an alleged rapist. This is huge. Everything's sensationalism. It's all BS, right, D? It's all BS. It's like the minute you hear it, everyone just immediately tunes it out. Immediately tunes it out. This is huge.
Majority. But Democrats were also very opposed to Trump's picks and his presidency overall in 2017 coming in. Where are they now?
I think one word to describe Democrats now is just they're exhausted. They're tired. You know, it's very hard being in the opposition. Donald Trump wears out his opponents, and I think they've done that here. So Democrats, Trump's win motivates me in what way to do things? Just 44% say to oppose Donald Trump. The majority, the 56%, either 46%, it doesn't motivate me at all, which I think is really the exhaustion pick, right? This is the plurality. Or 10% say it actually motivates them to support Donald Trump. Together, these numbers get 56%, far higher than the 44% who say oppose Donald Trump. The bottom line is this: Republicans very motivated by.
And by the way, I guarantee you, if we ask that question in our poll, we're going to get a very different result. That is the CBS News YouGov spin. They can't help themselves. They have to give them some kind of a nugget. They have probably waited their butts off to get something like that. You know, oh, let's make moderates 58% in this question and not tell everybody we waited for that question. You think they don't do stuff like that? I guarantee you. That's why they don't let you look at their data sets. That's why they don't go to MarketSite and produce what we do, interactive crosstabs where you can see whether or not we adjusted a weight variable for a column or a row. We can't do that because if we did, it would be a big crucifix. When you hover on it, it will say this is a different weight. They can do whatever they want because they can print out whatever they want. I can copy and paste crosstabs too and then change numbers. You think they're not doing it? I guarantee you they're doing it. Otherwise, they would have done it the way we do it, which is where we can't manipulate it. Otherwise, you will see. Transparency is key.
By Donald Trump's win, and compared to 8 years ago, Democrats just really, really tired. They have just given up. We'll see what happens, right?
Yeah,
Trump gets sworn
November
in.
2024. I think a lot of people are exhausted after the election.
I think a lot of people are exhausted, but this is really a very different picture from 8 years ago. The American folks are much more behind Donald Trump than they were back in November of 2016.
Bottom line.
And Democrats who were so rich in their opposition to Donald Trump 8 years ago, at this particular point, they're just like, I'm going to take a step back.
All right. Harry Anton, everyone, appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Being here and staying over there. This distance is good. Kate?
Well, I don't know what that means. Does that mean he's sick? Harry, you sick? You sick, dude? I appreciate you staying over there. And guess what? Social distancing was a fabrication. There was absolutely no scientific evidence that 6 feet apart mattered at all. They made it up. You know what matters? Whether or not you take elderberry every day, whether or not you eat correctly every day, whether or not you exercise every day, whether or not your immune system is subjected to that particular virus before, so now you have a way to fight it off. You could be 6 feet apart, dummy, and if you touch the table where his snot is, and then you like, oh, I'm tired, I'm gonna wipe my face, you got it. Whether you stood 6 feet apart from him or not. So stupid. These people are so dumb. I'm over it. Wow, I had a montage I wanted to play for you toward the end. I may just play it as like a technical commercial break. But yeah, I mean, I may just do that. But yeah, the bottom line is what he said there is that Democrats are just tired. Okay, which I find interesting. Democrats are just tired. And the opposition years ago is just not there anymore. They just don't have it in them anymore, which I find to be extremely interesting, folks. I really do. And I think that is 100% true. But also, it was in the numbers. It was inside the numbers. Best title for a show about polling ever. Best name. By the way, Laura came up with that. It's just the truth. Not me. That was all Laura. By the way, She's also the one, vitamin D, sunshine, fresh air, 2,000 micrograms a day, and a good B complex. Oh, man, Peppers, you're so right. It's just totally it. Totally it. Yes, Jack Smith filed to drop all charges. I mean, they can't do anything at this point. And the state's continuing thing, he's going to make their lives miserable. He's going to ruin them. Like, I mean, he could he could appoint a special, see how his point went together there? He could appoint a special counsel to destroy Fatty Willis and Letitia James. They're corrupt. And I imagine he will probably do that. He should. He wants unity, but that's not, again, that's not retribution. That's justice. You had to be a corrupt prosecutor who engages in prosecutorial misconduct on a daily basis to even twist the law to bring charges like they did against Donald Trump. You have to be a scumbag. You have to be a dirtbag. I would sick the what is essentially the IA version of the Department of Justice on Jack Smith. He's a crook. Everyone knows it. Fannie Willis is a crook who steals money. Everyone knows it. Letitia James is a crook. Everybody knows it. It's not retribution to appoint special prosecutors who abide by the law to go after those who abuse their power and abuse the law to go after their political opponents. Those people need to be punished and punished severely because that's all that holds this all together, folks. It doesn't matter. I don't want to blow her name up because I don't want to embarrass her, but she's like one of the best locals people we have in the book club. And she was a she was a lawyer and I believe did defense actually, most toward the end of her career. She said something once that was absolutely true during a book club. It doesn't matter how many laws you codify, whether they're in black and white. It doesn't matter if the character of the people that are there to enforce the law or to preserve it and defend it are corrupt, are scumbags. It just doesn't matter. So they have to be made an example of. They have to be held to much higher standards. We used that justification to put a police officer in jail, even though he didn't kill the guy, to put a police officer in jail who was, many people around the country thought, abused his authority and physically abused George Floyd. He really died of a fentanyl overdose, and he's a piece of garbage who robs pregnant women and threatens to shoot their babies. He ingested fentanyl so the police wouldn't find it, and he killed himself. Yet we have a police officer who we fried, publicly tarred and feathered, basically, and fried and threw in jail for the rest of his life because we're supposed to be holding them to higher standards. What about the prosecutors? They're even more powerful. What about the prosecutors? Somebody get the tar. Somebody get the feathers. Saint fentanyl. Right. We basically sainted this guy. What kind of a man would put a firearm to the belly of a pregnant woman? It's 12:35. We got to get the rest of these reads out of the way. Let's do that, and then let's have fun with some videos that we'll talk about, which is just hilarious because now they're downplaying it. But let's revisit when it dawned on them that people like me were right, or just let's call it as it is. Because if locals, you watched the video I streamed earlier today, you know what I'm talking about. I was right. I was right. It dawned on them that the People's Pundit was right and that coalition was real. It wasn't a mirage. And it's kind of funny. We'll have some fun. We'll have some fun doing it. Then we'll get to hopefully the one of the Thanksgiving things that I really want to go over. Now, there's a few of them that we've done over the years. I'm trying to think about which one I want to do first. I probably will go in order. What is that? That's 2014. Oh, wow, man. We're going to go back a decade.
to an article I once wrote, and we'll go to the reprinted version on People's Pundit Daily. Okay. But for now, let's do this. We all know how much that the People's Pundit has now fallen in love with biltong. Farmer Bill's provisions. You want to know? Money where my mouth is. Take that down real quick. Money where my mouth is. I eat these like every day now. I absolutely love them. This is the steak part of the biltong, right? And then, of course, you can have it like it's in jerky. I'm crushing it right now. That's the beef. That's my beef. I'm almost done. I need more. This is the chili. Love it. Dave Viva Fry, he's been telling you got to get the ghost, The bison, I need more of the bison too. I'm excited. And then this is the bison biltong, regular, no chiller. I just sit there at my desk like, I will never eat beef jerky again. Mark my words. Kid you not, or at least not packaged crap like that. Biltong is so good. I had no idea about the rich history of this snack, and it's so good. All right, but also, you like putting America first? This is putting America's beef farmers, right, and cattle ranchers first. That's what they're doing over in South Dakota at Farmer Bill's Provision. Sugar-free, keto-friendly, gluten, no nitrates, paleo diet, Whole30 friendly, soy-free, protein-rich. It's such a big deal that soy-free, by the way, and gluten, even if you're not a gluten-free kind of like person, I mean, it's a bonus for me, of course. But like, yeah, I eat all that crappy jerky stuff, man. I swell. Too much sodium, too much soy. Gets me all. I don't like it. It may taste decent, but I don't like it. This is so juicy, so delicious. But again, big part of this over at Farmer Bill's, not only because family owned, they are definitely supporting America's cattle ranchers. The industry itself is at risk from, outside influences like China even. And of course, BlackRock, they are basically trying to control America's beef market. This is your way to push back and to stay healthy, eating more healthier meats. All right. So go to farmerbillsprovisions.com. The link is in the description, and use the promo code TPP for the People's Pundit to get yourself some discounted biltong. I love this stuff. I really cannot stress enough how good it is. For those of you who already did it, drop what you think in the comment section. I really enjoy hearing from you about it because, man, this is like damn near life-changing for me. I kid you not. farmerbillsprovisions.com, and then use the promo code for checkout on the way out. Promo code TPP for the People's Pundit. Love it. It's so good. So juicy. So flavorful. Not like a dry, like jerky. It's flavorful. It's got like juicy and moisture and depth. So good. So good. Can't wait to try more. And those sticks, woo! I'm going to serve them, by the way, in my antipasta. I kid you not. I'm serving biltong for people who don't know what it is. Italians for the holidays, every holiday, including the Feast of the Seven Fishes on Christmas Eve. We just don't do it with prosciutto and the red meats out of it. But because, of course, it's all fish that Friday. And that's a Catholic thing. You don't have to do it, but we maintain tradition, so we do. But there could be like a pepperoni people sometimes put in there. We're more like salami and prosciutto and capricole, stuff like that. And then olives and roasted red peppers, mozzarella, right? Baby mushrooms, artichoke hearts, right? We do that. I'm adding those biltong steaks to the antipasta this year. I cannot wait. Oh, and cheeses, of course, cheeses. All right, so for those who don't know what an antipasta is, or maybe they call it charcuterie, right? Am I saying that right, Lauren? Charcuterie. I always mess that word up, but I'm using this for our antipasta. I can't wait, and kids love it. My kids love it. So good. 240. Let's also get the last side of the way. All right, because of course, Trump's win does not end the challenges that the country has, especially economically. So if you're looking for a way to protect your wealth or to diversify your portfolio, I want to tell you about Freedom Gold USA if you haven't heard about them already. Look, all of these houses have like minimum commitments, right? And some of them are like big, 50K, 20K, 10K. Even Freedom Gold is 5. But not for you guys. All right. They've lowered that all the way down to just 500, which is insane and never heard of. And you still get free shipping and insurance on every on every opening, whatever you do, whether you're going to open a gold or silver IRA, which will give you $500 credit, by the way, or you just want to take advantage of one of the great deals we have. We were supposed to do it last Saturday. Things were still kind of crazy. We do have 2 winners. We got to announce them, bring them on and announce them. It's just there's been a lot going on. If you won, you know, and you got it. People who don't know what I'm talking about, if you do, go to Freedom Gold and open a new account, buy some silver or gold or whatever, you'll be thrown into basically what is a prize pool. You know, it's like they raffle you guys, and somebody's going to win free silver every month. It's really cool. A lot we've had now, 4 or 5 people who have won free silver. And look, it doesn't get much better than that. Bottom line is, though, what I really like about these guys is that they're not a boiler room. This is no hard push. They want you to be confident when you decide to make a decision. So they answer whatever questions you have. And that means the world to me. All right. They want to make sure that you are confident enough to when you make your decision, you're happy with it. So you can go to freedomgoldusa.com/rich and check out what kind of deals maybe you qualify for regardless, or you could take advantage of one of ours, or you could give them a call. That's our number. Just like the website is specifically for us, that number is specifically for us. 888-279-3592. 888-279-3592. We're getting toward the end of the year, guys, and your brokers are going to tell you, do this before the end of the year, do that from the end of the year. If you're not diversified or you don't have any wealth protection at all, I would suggest, I got to be careful with the words you use, of course, I would strongly suggest, like Laura and I do, at the end of the year, we do 2 things: charity, and what else can we do to protect our financial security? Can we do a little bit more? And currency in general has become a big deal for us throughout the year. We don't do it enough. So charity and gold or silver. Silver's totally undervalued and underrated. And now look at it. By the way, look at the run it just had since we had them on last time. All right. Wait until the Fed starts buying it all up. All right. It's 2:42, and this is going to be a while, I believe. I was ripping over on Real Clear Politics, and then I saw this, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to show this to you guys because it's just too funny. I don't know how I missed it. It went up 4 days ago, and I didn't see it until yesterday, and I'm like, we have got to do this. Can I make this any bigger, or should sign in maybe? Hold on, guys. Let me sign in first. No, it's Big Data Poll. So I have an account, which if you don't, and this is not an advertisement, if you don't have an account with Real Clear Politics, you should check it out and think about doing it because you get ad-free and stuff. It's really cool. All right, so let me start it, and then I'll be able to open it up bigger. Here we go. Boom. Let's do it. All right, this is hilarious. This is a montage of MSNBC when they realize, now we're not going to be able to play it all. This is when they realize that they have a problem. She's going to lose. And I'll skip along, but we'll do a little bit in the beginning here, and then I'll skip along, and I can't watch the whole thing. If you do, I'll put the link in the description. If you've got time, you should do it. It's funny as hell.
Well, I mean, I will say from the raft of undecided voters and just people out in the world that I talked to in battleground states over the course of the last few weeks, everyone's focused on women. Everyone's focused on the gender divide. Everyone, Michael Steele mentioned the quiet vote, the notion that women are going into the booth and pulling a lever that's different from the lever their husbands are pulling. That was a direct appeal from the Harris campaign. But also this phenomenon, and there's a great piece in The Atlantic today by Elizabeth Froning about what wives want and what married women are going to do. Because traditionally married white women.
Can you take the 8 ball away from this woman? My God. This is why nobody ever wants to hear what the hell you have to say. Chill out.
Have given their votes to Trump in the last 2 election cycles. Does abortion change that calculation? Are women who are married seeing their fates tied more to women elsewhere? Is this a moment for, I guess, not to be heavy-handed about it, but sisterhood? Can abortion unite women in states where abortion access isn't threatened to the fates and risks faced by women in states where abortion access is threatened? And I think that's a huge question. It's going to, in many ways, maybe even determine.
I swear to God, I did not speed that up. I saw that comment. I swear to God, I did not speed that up. That is her. That was not 2X. That was her. I did not play around with her voice. That's it.
The outcome of the election, how women see each other in each other's shoes. To practice those undecided voters who are making game time calls want to vote for a winner. And I really think this.
Oh, you're saying check for 2X speed? Is it? Let's see. It got to, custom 1. No, guys, it's on 1. It sounds
unscientific.
Yeah.
But the last week has been a very good close for Kamala Harris, not a good close for Donald Trump. He hasn't been able to fill the rallies. He's addled. He has racist comedians opening, whatever. It's been a trashy week for Donald Trump. It's been a very strong week for Kamala Harris. And if you're sitting there in the line thinking, I want to vote for the person who has a W at the end of their name after this is all over, that's a good thing for Kamala
Can I just
Harris.
add people, but I feel very good about
That's her. See, it's fine right now. That's her.
where we are. That's for sure.
As we in Wisconsin, 8 college campuses in Wisconsin have 1 to 2 hour lines as of midday. And the campaign is tracking what this means. They're saying that in some of these places, the turnout is already at 100%, what the 2020 numbers are. So that means that they're cautiously optimistic.
Fast forward to right now, and I will tell you that Donald Trump received the most votes of any Republican presidential candidate for president ever in the state of Wisconsin. Fast forward to
Change in the characterization of the race in Georgia. It had previously been characterized, the presidential race in Georgia had previously been characterized as too early to call. We're now changing characterization to too close to call. So again, it doesn't mean that we're anywhere closer to a result, but I wanted to get that in while you continue your exposition of why we feel that way.
I'm going to give a couple of everybody take a breath warnings here. Okay. One is DeKalb County is not in Georgia because of the extension of the poll hours. That is such a big county for the Democrats. We don't know what's going to happen in Georgia. I would also just reiterate, maybe you've also said this, it's like a baby blue state, I'm going to say, and that it has not been blue for a long time. It is a hard state for the Harris team.
Georgia. Just joining us right this second at 8:52:06, and I had to summarize what's going on. No surprises. Pretty much that's what's happened thus far. There's been no surprising result anywhere, I don't think. Now, that doesn't mean that the no surprise result for the presidential race will be, it's really tight, we don't know. And that could be true for a very long time.
The turnout thing, to your point.
Friends are saying it's very tight and they don't want to make predictions, but people are hesitant to say, but they are encouraged. They're encouraged by what they're seeing in Detroit specifically, like in all of the other battleground states, by what they're seeing on the college campuses.
All right, now let's fast forward it, shall we? Okay. All right. Claire is worried about the Senate.
53 or 54 seats. And why is that so important? Well, one reason it's so important is because it probably means
North Carolina
if this all
was called
happens,
by then.
this is very depressing. I'm sorry to do this to everyone, but it means maybe the worst instincts of Donald Trump as to who he would appoint to the cabinet can become real, because there wouldn't be enough people that would say no.
I have to interrupt my own train of thought to bring you a call. For the second time this evening, NBC News is able to make a projection in a battleground state. NBC News now projects that in the battleground state of Georgia in the presidential race, Donald Trump has prevailed in the presidential race in Georgia. So again, of our swing states, we've got 2 called thus far in Georgia and in North Carolina per NBC News. That puts the electoral map at Donald Trump with 246 electoral votes and Kamala Harris at 189 electoral to make. NBC News can project at this hour, and this is a big one, that the Republican Party will control the United States Senate.
Okay.
Now, what tipped this over, we have eyes on Howard University right now. We can tell you that Vice President Harris is not expected to speak tonight, but we are seeing quite a crowd there, and we are.
I do know that there was a.
Wait a minute. I got to stop right there and talk about this. This is now for a party who has been calling others election deniers for years. And I'm telling you, if you're as old as me, you remember Democrats are the OG election deniers. They have refused to accept the outcome of every presidential election that they have lost in my lifetime. Like every single one, with the exception of Reagan, because he just clobbered them in the bush the first time. I guess we can take those off the table. But they even challenged the election results in North Carolina against Nixon. When he slapped them. All right, fast forward to 2000. I even can understand that. Although what I can't understand is them attempting to steal the election in Miami-Dade with the hanging chads. If Republicans didn't physically break the door down in Miami-Dade, where they were counting ballots that were illegal and that they were suspected to have manufactured or retaken out of the box to rediscover the intent of the voter with the hanging chad. If Republicans didn't physically break that door down, they probably could have found 500 votes, and it would have been harder for Bush to make that case during the Supreme Court. All right. Then, of course, we know 2004, they were trying to withhold the electoral votes for Ohio. And that was an effort that was actually led by a California senator, Barbara Boxer, which is ridiculous, right? And they use the exit polls to do this like vast statistical analysis of how it's impossible John Kerry lost the state of Ohio. Ridiculous. All right. But they did it. And they did it nonetheless. And they lost the popular vote. All right. Not huge, but enough to know there was no way they could win. And then, of course, we all know about 2016. We know what they did. They fabricated the Russia hoax to make it make sense in their mind, or at least make it make sense for the minds of the voters who they lied to. And they knew, the ones who did it knew exactly what they were doing. And then we move forward, and they never let go of 2016. They never let it go. Every elected Democratic leader, or one that failed to get elected, like Hillary Clinton, she still talks about the Russia hoax to this day when everyone knows it's fake. It was bought and paid for by her campaign, and the FBI was complicit and then took a lead role in the conspiracy to subvert a duly elected president, which is terrifying if you think about it. But a step down from just executing a president like they did to John Kennedy. All right, so moving forward, we get now to 2020. They go all ham about, oh my God, how dare you question the election results? And now look at where we are in 24. Many are openly saying Trump stole the election somehow. I mean, it's totally, totally ridiculous. Harris now is the second Democratic presidential candidate to not have the courage or the character to take her loser ass out from behind the curtain and go tell the American public that she lost that election. In 2016, it was clear by 11, right? It was clear to us before that, but to the world by 11:30, I'm being generous, that she had lost that election. She did not waltz John Podesta out, not herself. She didn't come out herself. She waltzed John Podesta out around midnight to tell the country the race wasn't over and we have still votes to count. It was over. She was an election denier. Let's not forget Stacey Abrams, who didn't really lose by that margin that's really all that close in Georgia. 45,000 votes is not that small. All right. And yeah, it looks like it percentage-wise, but it's not that small. It's not. Anyway, she refused to acknowledge that she lost to Brian Kemp. Now we have a second presidential candidate who in 2024 knew she had lost by the time that they got that. Oh, we have breaking news. Harris isn't going to speak tonight. There are votes still to be counted. You lost, and everyone knew you lost, and you did not come out and say anything. Say what you will about Donald Trump. He walked to the microphone, and he said, we won. They're going to steal it. We won. That's got more character than that. We have long had this in this country. Now, I get it with vote by mail. You may not know, but we knew in 16 and we knew in 24. It was over. They should have done the right thing and come out and conceded. Bob Casey, look at the disgrace. Bob Casey, his father's legacy, his whole family legacy. It's the first time since the 90s there won't be a Casey representing statewide office, and that's how he chooses to go out, hiring professional election thief Mark Elias. Now there's going to be asterisks next to the results of the state of Pennsylvania for psephologists everywhere like me forever. Because while it's the official vote, it's filled with thousands and thousands of illegal votes. That's how Bob Casey chose to go out, and he lost anyway. It's disgraceful. So don't tell me, by the way, when people like Eric Hovda say, I think they did me dirty in Milwaukee. Look at what they tried to do in Pennsylvania. They were openly counting illegal votes. You think when the doors are closed and people aren't allowed to see that they won't ram down absentee ballots in the county of Milwaukee? In the city of Milwaukee, excuse me? Give me a break. It's not the entire county. Of course they will. They were doing it in the open. They are the OG election deniers, and they have the audacity to call anybody else. Here's clinging to hope.
A lot of hand-wringing and consternation in her camp about when she should leave, about when she should start to head here. And her victory party, which was in another part of town, at what point they turned off the TV set and just piped up the music because the room was starting to get increasingly somber. So a lot of people here, I haven't had a chance to talk to people who expressed disappointment. There really is still a lot of people who are holding on to hope, trying hard to hold on to hope. But the numbers, it's hard to do that in the face of a map that really looks like it's presenting a very steep challenge. And a country that at this point is still very divided.
And to be clear, Michelle, NBC News has called 2 of the 7 swing states. They have called Georgia and North Carolina for Donald Trump. They've also called Senate control for the Republican Party. 5 swing states remain to be called. But as you say, the internal math, which we have been following with Steve Kornacki, the wins in Georgia and North Carolina have created the mood that you're describing. The last thing that we have reportable from the Harris campaign, but Trump declares victory, I mean, all these things that everybody gamed out. Now, while we're just waiting for the blue wall states to come in and watching the math, sending people home is also like asking people to conserve their emotional energy.
And it's not possible. I mean, I think there's no other way to describe how people are feeling leaving that venue and people on the campaign than deflated in this moment. Yes, all of the other states have not been called, but what they went to that venue tonight hoping to see and witness was a historic election of Kamala Harris to the presidency, was the end of the Trump era as they knew it. And so we don't know the outcome yet, but that is not what they are receiving. And they are being told to go home and wait till tomorrow. It's a hard thing to hear. People who have worked across the country because they believed in Joe Biden, and then they're like, we're here for Kamala Harris. We believe in this. We're fighting for democracy. We're fighting for abortion rights. All of those people are also sitting deflated and waiting at this moment, and maybe still hopeful too. But I've been thinking a lot about them as well because it's been quite a 107, 200 days for them.
Boy, Jen really profited somehow, didn't she? Nobody says these things out loud. I guess I'm the only prick who does, right? What do I mean? I'm just going to say it. I don't care. I'm going to get called a chauvinist. Maybe I shouldn't say it. I think I'm going to anyway. Jen Psaki, clearly, I think she got work done. Looks like she got work done to me. Right? She looks like she's doing all right, guys. Okay. When Jen Psaki was new to this, she looks pretty now, is what I'm saying. Like, or prettier. All right. And that's not what she was looking about. I'm going to put it in that's a good question. That's not how she looked years ago. She looks better, like she's got work done and has got a lot more money. All right. I'm going to pause it as we go along here because we're getting to the end of the show, but I'm going to stop and answer some of these super chats while I do. He says, I just subscribed recently. What was your polling into the 2020 presidential election? If you had Trump winning, what do you think happened? We didn't. I'll put the link. There's the public polling project from 2020. By the way, you will get one of these for 24. This was up though more in live time. I had more help in 2020. As you could see, we had with Pennsylvania very close. But nevertheless, and by the way, we had all of these states much closer than the media polling did. Technically could have went either way, but we did have Trump down in Michigan and Wisconsin, and which is the ball game for him. In Pennsylvania, it was going back and forth between like Biden +2 to Trump +1. So it makes sense that it ended up with a hair of a Biden lead, although we all know what they did in Pennsylvania in 2020. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, I don't know if you're trying to bait me into saying that or not. I don't, or if you're being earnest, but I just say what I have to say anyway, regardless of what I think people are going to log or say, oh, he said this. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that election was rigged. That election was handicapped against Donald Trump. There was like every advantage in the world given to Joe Biden. They broke laws. They counted illegal votes. They put moratoriums on election vote verification procedures to verify whether or not somebody is an actual voter. That they suspended solicited vote by mail, which means you cannot. You have to request an absentee ballot. They suspended that in multiple key states where they just sent out ballots and without voters requesting them. Why does that matter? As I discussed back then, it's a little something called change of address flags. Just being registered to vote in the United States of America is not the same as being eligible to vote in the United States of America. And I know that sounds really weird, but it's true. There are voter records. If you just subscribed, I know some of you have heard this probably over and over, but you just subscribed, so bear with me. Voter records are what we call dirty. And there's been a decent job by some in some key states to clean them up so they cannot be exploited. But the dirtier they are, the easier they are to exploit. So Lombardo doing what he did in Nevada, it's no shock that Donald Trump won the state comfortably, despite there being still 80% of the dirt in the state of Nevada being in Clark County, right? Clark County is about 70% of the vote, but it's 80+% of the dirt, meaning people who no longer live at addresses. And if you have that unsolicited
What's going to happen is what we showed you in 2020. Barnes, showing you apartment complexes. Look, there are like ballots posted to cork boards because they're getting absentee ballots sent out and nobody lives at that address anymore. So that person is just, you could easily just grab that ballot, pretend to be that person and fill it in. With all the Trump hate and all the fanaticism, you think there weren't people who just filled in those ballots? By the way, do we have still some of those pictures? I kept 2. Here we go. There's a great one. Look at that. 4 ballots for somebody who doesn't live there anymore. California. All right. Here we go. Here's more. We kept very clear ones that we know we were allowed to use with the address and everything. We got permission to use them. So we could always show you that and always remind you. Because if that turned out to be somebody who lived in Beverly Hills but moved to Phoenix, okay, he was still, first of all, in Arizona, they still sent him ballots that didn't belong to him at the new address and the new residence. But the house in Beverly Hills in California still got ballots for the family. And now that's the new resident in that address getting his ballots. That's what that is for the whole family, 4 of them. Now, if that ends up being the recipient, ends up being the resident of that address, ends up being some fanatical Trump hater like Reality Winner, who was willing to break the law and leak classified information to hurt Donald Trump. If that's the case, she can do that. You think she wouldn't fill out 4 ballots and send them back? Of course she would. Stop. Of course she would. Which is why Barnes and I did not focus on the machine talk, which was left field. They didn't do it through machines. It was done the old-fashioned way. The old-fashioned way. Signatures that were repeatedly by the same person. You could see clear as day. In Georgia, when they released the images that they did release, we all saw what they did. They were duplicate signatures, same person, all caps, many, all caps. You can't sign with all caps. Well, that's why the rejection rates were like nil. Gwinnett County, Georgia, for instance. 2016, the rejection rate was 12.7%. It was nothing in 2020, despite grossly increasing vote by mail. So some of those constraints and some of those reforms, or I would even just not even say reforms, but like doubling down, like we're not allowing this year. Republicans doing that was a big deal. And then staying proactive, huge deal. All right, it's 3:03. Let's laugh a little bit more, and then we're going to have to boogie. All right, sound good? Let's do it.
Or been in the United States for any period of time and experienced this country's history and knows it, cannot have believed that it would be easy to elect a woman president, let alone a woman of color. Let's
moving on.
What we just saw from the Harris campaign looks like their expectation is more pessimistic than optimistic. Yeah. We didn't see them bring out a real fire breather who's acting like, hey, give us a little more time. We got this. It wasn't a long speech. It didn't even, and Jen can speak to this as can everyone on the panel, it didn't sound like a battle plan of here's the next 36 hours. It sounded more pessimistic. And on the flip side, and I don't mean this as an insult to Donald Trump, although it is a negative observation, the only time he's quiet and talks about things being fair is if he thinks he's already won. Right. Yes. When it's uncertain, he accuses everyone of cheating and undermines people's trust in this, which is unfortunate. And when he's losing, he's the loudest. And we all were at this table late night last cycle when we know in the end he lost, and he came out and did that. And so I just want to observe, and I'm sure many other people can add insights to this, that the Harris campaign sounds like that. And he is as quiet as we've seen him.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're all, we shall see. I think the Democrats were hoping they'd do so well, they'd expand the map to Texas and Iowa, and they didn't win either of those either. At this point, we've got 2 of the 7 swing states called. They are North Carolina and Georgia, both called for NBC News for Donald Trump. We're still watching the results come in all of the other swing states. We're heading toward a 1 a.m. closing in Alaska. That'll be our last poll closing of the night. Pennsylvania, is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, we are. It is 94%. Trump's lead here at 190,000 votes. That works out to about a 3 percentage point lead. It is a very significant hill for Kamala Harris to climb here. Just in terms of what's left, the picture is really kind of condensing and clarifying.
Our coverage of the presidential election. It is 1:52 a.m., which means we're obviously at.
By the way, at 1:52 a.m. in the election coverage from the People's Pundit, you already knew that those states were gone for Kamala Harris. Pennsylvania was gone, and basically every other one that would have been the pivot state. I mean, Pennsylvania is the pivot state I told you that was going to be the case going into this election. It's why we chose with the Public Polling Project to focus on Pennsylvania, national polling, so we could identify trends, but Pennsylvania, and we did some others like Florida, of course, we wanted to do. It's just our thing. It's our state. We also did Michigan because it was thought to have been the toughest hill to climb. But after doing the Rust Belt poll probably, 3 times during the cycle, it was clear to me that Michigan could actually vote to the right of one, if not both, of those other states. And it did vote to the right of Wisconsin, which is interesting. But it's what I expected would happen. And why is that? Michigan has a more diverse population. It does. So it would have been possible that Trump, let's say, didn't expand with white voters as much as people thought he would. He didn't, but he did so much better with non-whites. Well, Michigan, that's going to help him. That's going to get him to 35% or 30. He got to 34. We had him polling at 36 in Wayne County. Right. So he got to 34. It was like almost perfect polling, by the way. So that's why, because if you're doing better, and we knew, by the way, in Michigan, he had already done better in Michigan with Hispanics in 2020. He barely lost them, 9 points. He lost them to Joe Biden. It was the working class white voter that kind of swung a little bit back to Joe Biden that cost him a very narrow election, right? This time they went back to Trump. Trump did better with even college, or I would say credentialed voters like in Oakland County. And of course, he did much better with non-whites. In Wayne alone, of course, he did way better with black voters, but he actually won Hispanics in the state of Michigan. So our intuition there, or our suspicion was absolutely accurate. He did better in Michigan, and that's why. New coalition, baby, new coalition. Now, Pennsylvania ended up, as expected, to be the pivot state for Trump. That was it. All right. And he won it, and he won it pretty easily.
At our best. At this point, 2 of the 7 swing states have been called by NBC News. North Carolina and Georgia have both been projected as having been won by Republican candidate Donald Trump. Now, on the Democratic side, the campaign that had posted up at Howard University in Washington, D.C., the alma mater of Democratic candidate Kamala Harris, the co-chair of the campaign, Cedric Richmond, came out and told the assembled crowd there, as our correspondent told us, as Michelle Norris told us, the increasingly somber crowd there told them basically to go home, that Vice President Harris would not be making any remarks tonight. Fallon Hilliard, thank you very much. I would be interrupting you if you had not just concluded your remarks, because NBC News has a projection to make
in the
presidential contest in the swing state of Pennsylvania. NBC News now projects that presidential contest has been won by Donald Trump. Now, I believe that means that we are at a 266 electoral vote count for Donald Trump. Kamala Harris at 194 electoral votes. So to be clear, this is the third of the 7 major swing states that have been called.
It's over.
Georgia and North Carolina and Pennsylvania, as those 3 states, presents an almost it presents an insurmountable future here for Kamala Harris and for the Democratic ticket. In terms of what's going to happen, Chris Hayes, with the projection in Pennsylvania, we pretty much know how this is going to end.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. I think the writing has been on the wall. And, one of the jobs that we all have in the media is to be truthful with people and transparent. We're very transparent about the process that brought us to this point. I'll just say this as we're preparing for Trump to take the stage. Steve was going through the numbers. We have this very funky. It looks possible that Donald Trump might emerge with a popular vote majority when all the votes.
We won't know for a long time.
We won't know for a long time, but this is not outside the realm of possibility. The Electoral College looks strongly in his favor. And if that is the case, if he has won the election, then he has won the election. And the reason I say that is because we've spent many years talking about democracy and the importance of the peaceful transfer of power. We've had a violent insurrection staged against the constitutional order by the man we're expecting to speak here, who urged his supporters to march to that Capitol, where they assaulted police officers and attempted to essentially steal power away from the majority of the country that had voted for Joe Biden. It's really important to note that while I believe that institutions have failed dramatically in putting us in the position we are, including the Supreme Court and other institutions, the Republican Party, that if he won, then he won.
Nothing. We're going to end it there. Not for nothing. There you have it. And that is why MSNBC is about to be decoupled from NBC and auctioned off for the low price of nobody gives a shit. Elon Musk should absolutely buy MSNBC and give Tucker Carlson the 8 p.m. primetime show. I love that idea. They just blatantly said that they're angry the Supreme Court didn't disallow Donald Trump. The party of democracy, ladies and gentlemen, the party of democracy. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Of course, I'm your host, Rich Barris, People's Pundit. If you like the videos, don't forget to like them, share them far and wide. As always, the best place to follow us is right here, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. All right. Unbelievable. Deuces.